Welcome, friends. As we come into our practice, we'll be giving emphasis to some joint churning throughout the body at the major intersections, as well as support for the hip sockets and into the low back. Go ahead and allow yourself to come into a centering position, whether for you that is lying on your back and feeling the support of your pelvis and your spine and your head resting to the floor, or a blanket or a bolster behind you. Or if you prefer to stay in a seated, more meditative position, we can join here and seated as well. But truly, any position that you find brings you comfort, brings you rest, where you can bring your attention to the feeling of your breath. You gently scan through your body. You're feeling some ease move into your feet. Relaxing into the calves and the thighs so that there's so little effort to hold your leg bones in place at the hip sockets, softening the legs, which may soften all the way down to the direction in which the toes point. Will you bring attention to the low part of your belly and to the sacrum, the backside of your pelvis, as if just by witnessing this area of low belly and sacrum, that an ease, even a fluidity can move through here. And when you feel into the band of tissue that is around your navel and around your waistline and all the way around into your lower lumbar spine, deepening breath here, giving long exhalations to soften that band of tissues. And then will you bring attention up into your rib cage and to your chest, front, side, and back. And notice how the rib cage expands and contracts in a wave-like motion with each breath. Feel into the movement of the bones of your ribs as you breathe, as well as the sensation of lungs filling and releasing. And then when you bring attention up into the shoulder girdle, where you can notice your collarbones and your shoulder blades and down the length of your arms, and take a big breath to shoulders, chest, upper back, and exhale down the length of the arms all the way to the fingers, feeling the life present here. Will you notice the intersection of your neck coming up to your head at your jaw, near your ears, at that occipital ridge on the back side of your skull? And then with your mind's eye, wrap over the whole circumference of the head, the scalp, softening the scalp, softening the forehead, feeling an ease around the circumference of your eyes, and a little slack to the jaw. Moving through the body in a progressive relaxation gives a momentary release. And when the body begins to relax, the blood moving and lymphatic moving vessels begin to work more effectively. Each stroke of your heart taking that oxygen-rich blood more easily to areas of your body. And we retrain the brain's relationship to the tissue's relationship to the brain. Will you take one more big breath here, inhaling till you feel quite filled up, exhaling till you feel quite released. And if you're in seated or you have a bolster behind you, will you begin to transition so that you can come down onto your back as we move into about 20 minutes of joint movement, joint churning for lubrication of the joints, and then we'll come into the long holds for the fascia and connective tissue. So if you'll start on your back with your feet on the floor with the knees bent. Let's draw the left knee in towards the belly so that you can hold on either to the hard side of this knee or the soft underneath side of this knee. And give it a little bit of a tug. Pull it in to your comfort. Know that the knee could go off wide to your side or it can compress right into your belly. And then when you lift your head up as if to bring your forehead towards the knee to stretch into the low back, length of the spine, and then lower the head back down. Direct this left knee off to the side. Let it go and begin to draw big circles on the ceiling with this left knee. That movement of the leg is happening through the muscular shift and exchange that supports this leg in its movement at the hip socket. All the movement happening here in the hip socket itself, that head of the femur bone in the hip socket. You may find as you stir here, you may find tender points. You might find a little rolling sound or a little pop sound that may happen as bone navigates through the layers of tissues in the hip. Will you find a place to pause and circle this knee in the opposite direction, knowing that the timing will recruit and fire different muscles in this movement, and massage into this hip socket a little differently than in the other direction. Inhaling through half the circle and exhaling through half the circle. Let's begin to slow the circle down. And once you come to stillness, we'll hug this thigh back towards our belly. Extend out through the left leg so that the foot comes up towards the ceiling. Flex your foot so it tugs along the back line of your leg, and then soften your foot and bend through your knee. Soften the foot. Reach the foot up towards the ceiling and then press through the heel, and then bend through the knee and soften the foot and the ankle. Twice more. Reach up, push through the heel to open that back line of fascia, and then bend through the knee and soften the foot. One more time. Reach up, push through the heel, and hold it here. You may like to hold on to the back of your hamstrings, the backside of your thigh, or place your hands at your calves, depending on your range of motion. Some of you have the flexibility here that you can take your left index finger and middle finger like the peace sign and grab onto your big toes. This left knee can be quite straight or it can be quite bent. Soften any judgment that you may have about your body being this way or that way, and be with the sensations of it. Here, tugging through calf, bottom of the foot, hamstrings, into the glute tissues and low back. Let's soften the hold. Bring your leg so it's kind of reaching towards the ceiling, again, whether your knee is straight or bent, and then squeeze your toes and open your toes. Squeeze and open, squeeze and open, and then circle a few times in one direction. Circling at the ankle. Circle the ankle in the opposite direction. Let's place this left foot onto the right thigh in a figure 4 and bring the right leg towards you so that you're in a reclined pigeon as we put the emphasis to the outer hip, the tissues along the IT band, the glute tissues, and even into the low back. Deepen a few more breaths where the elongated exhalation can be noticed. Feel the effort of the inhalation and a long, soft, slow exhalation. Let's deepen this breath again. And then exhale, bring your right foot to the ground, but keep your left foot in this figure 4. Keeping the figure 4 with the legs, drop both legs over towards the right, as that'll twist the spine a little bit and make tug into the left crust of your hip. On an inhalation, bring the knees back through the center, and then take both legs towards the left. Inhale up through center. Exhale, both legs go to the right. Inhale through center. Both legs go left. Inhale through center. Take both legs to the right and then stay there. Now, it may be that your left foot is hovering, and it may be that your left foot comes to the floor and stands on the floor. If the foot is hovering and it's hard to hold here, you might like sliding your bolster or your block underneath the left foot so that your foot has a place to land. Now from here, will you take your left arm up alongside your ear, reach overhead, and then take that arm off to the side a little bit towards the right, so maybe to the upper left-hand corner. And then let's release this hand back down beside us. Do the same now on the right. Take the right arm up and overhead. Reach the hand off at an angle to the upper right-hand corner of the mat or the room. And then bring this hand back down to center. Bring both legs back through to the center. Let's unwind the legs. Take a moment to stretch both legs out onto the floor with the legs not bent. And notice how this feels in the left bum, in the left hip, into the left low back. Now, will you bring both knees up toward your chest? Take both arms off to the side in a T position. And direct both legs over to the left, and to the right. Take both knees to the right until that right leg lands on the ground. It's possible that this left shoulder will stay close to the ground or just barely hovering above it. If the arm comes way off the ground, get a bolster underneath your right leg to hold your leg here. Now, while we're in this twist, let's come into shoulder, the left shoulder. Will you bring your left hand down by your hip? And as if you could slide your left foot on the floor, off to the left, and then up and overhead. And so you're sliding it on the floor the whole time, or just above the floor. And then exhale, slide that arm down until it comes back down by your hip. Trace this half circle as you inhale along the line of the floor until the arm reaches up and overhead. The hand will likely flip as you take these movements, and then exhale, take the hand down, tracing a half circle on the floor. Let's add some neck movements here. So you inhale, left arm sweeps alongside you. Turn your head to look to the left. And then exhale, sweep this left arm down. Turn your head to look to the right. 3 more times. You inhale, sweep left arm alongside the floor and look left. And exhale, sweep left hand down, down by the hip. Turn the head to look right. Inhale, sweep up, look to the left. And exhale, sweep down, look to the right. Last time. Inhale, trace a half circle on the floor up alongside the ear. Look left. Exhale, sweep it down. Turn your gaze. Look right. Leave the arm here or bring it back out to that T position for balance and bring both legs back up through to the center. Gaze up to the ceiling. We release the legs down onto the floor all the way out like a brief Savasana and bring your arms to a place where they feel more comfortable. Notice what you feel all the way down that left side of your body. Maybe tissues of the scalp, jaw, shoulder, ribs, hip, leg. Let's take these movements to the other side by bringing your feet onto the floor with the knees bent. Invite right knee up toward your chest to give it a little hug. Lift your head up as if to bring your forehead towards your knee, to tug along the back line of the spine. Lower the head back down, and let's take the right knee off to the side. Let it go and start to circle this knee, as if drawing a big circle on the ceiling with this knee. Now your pelvis can stay steady here and circle your leg. Or when your leg is circling around, let yourself rock a little bit to the left, letting your left leg move out of your way as you circle around. And that's going to massage a little bit into the glute tissue, the piriformis, to the tissues of your lower spine and sacrum. Take 3 more circles in this direction. And then let's pause and circle in the opposite direction. Stay connected with the breath, inhaling through half the circle and exhaling through half the circle. One more time around. And then let's extend this right leg up towards the ceiling. Press through its heel to tug along the back side of your leg. And then soften the foot and bend the knee. Reach the foot up towards the ceiling. When leg goes towards straight, then push through the heel. Draw your toes back toward your heart. And then exhale, bend your knee and soften the foot. Twice more. Reach up, push through the heel. And exhale, soften through the foot. And now inhale, reach through, push through the heel towards the ceiling. No worries if leg here is straight or bent. Maybe hold on to your hamstring on the back side of your thigh, or hold on to your calf, or you could take peace fingers to hold on to your big toe. Take the reach, the grab that still keeps ease in your neck. If you have to reach so much that it draws your chin up and compresses the back of your neck, take a lower hold so that you can adjust the back of your neck and keep it open. Will you release the foot or the hold wherever you have it and squeeze through the toes to come into the joints of the toes? Open the toes. Give a little fist with the toes and open the toes. One more time. And then circle 3 times at your ankle in one direction. Circle 3 times in the opposite direction. We'll place the right foot onto the left thigh in figure 4 and then bring left leg towards you into reclined pigeon, recruiting into the tissues of the outer hip, side of the leg. It has communication through its dense fascia line all the way down to your ankles and outer toes, all the way up rib cage, shoulder, jaw, scalp, here on the side body, whether you feel that or not. Let's bring the left foot to the floor with the knee bent. And let both legs, while you're holding the figure four, take both legs over to the left to create a little twist, maybe a tug on your right crest of your hip. And then bring it back up through center. Take both legs to the right. This is also moving in that hip socket on the left leg. We'll come through center and exhale both legs to the left. Inhale through center, take both legs to the right. Take it back and forth. Inhaling when you come through center. Exhaling when you come to the side. Take it one more time in each direction. And then take yourself over to the left, and maybe that right foot will hover above the ground and hang out here fine, or maybe that right foot will land on the floor. Maybe you place a block or a cushion underneath it so that you have something to stand upon. Let's take the left arm up alongside the ear and reach. Take the left arm a little bit off to the side and reach. Bring the hand down to your body and then extend the right arm out above your head, reaching alongside your ear, just for something out of reach. And then take it off at an angle towards the upper right-hand corner and reach. Let's bring this hand back down. Draw the legs back through the center. Unwind the legs and pause on your back with your legs extended out long to give the tissues a moment to rebound, to send a circulatory flush through, and notice what you feel. Let's draw both knees in towards the chest. And this time take both legs, go ahead and take both arms out to the side in T position so that it acts as an anchor for you. And then take both legs over to the left. If the left leg lands, let the knee land. Right leg may be parted. It may be that the leg lays right on top. If it's hard to make contact here or it really pulls your right shoulder up, consider getting a bolster underneath that left leg to hold you a bit higher. We're going to trace along the floor here. If you bring your right hand down by your hip and then fan it on the floor, trace along the floor or just slightly above the floor until this arm comes up and over your head. And then trace the space down like a half circle down back to your side hip. Inhale, arm reaches up and overhead, sliding it really close to the floor or on the floor. And exhale, sweep it down next to your hip. Let's add the neck into the mix as we inhale. Right arm sweeps. Turn your head to look to the right, soft mouth, soft jaw. And then exhale, sweep the arm down and turn your head to look to the left. Inhale, right arm sweeps up, look to the right. And then exhale, sweep this arm down and turn your head to look to the left. Twice more. Inhale, right arm traces the floor up and overhead. Look right. And then exhale, sweep it down, look left. Inhale, sweep up and overhead, look right. And exhale, sweep it all down, look left. Bring your arm back to a T position to be your anchor. Hug into the low belly and draw the legs back through to the center.
Let's bring the legs out long onto the floor. You can certainly bring your arms in more close to rest beside you or rest hands on your body and notice what you feel. As we work that whole right side of spine and hips and shoulder. Let's bring some symmetry now. If you'll bring your feet onto the floor with the knees bent and take a few pelvic tilts where you exhale and tilt your pelvis under to flatten your low back towards the floor. And then inhale, tilt your pelvis forward to increase the low back arch. Exhale, flatten low back towards the floor. And inhale, increase the low back arch. Exhale as you flatten low back. And inhale as you arch. Take 3 more breaths like this, noticing that your arms are soft, that your upper back and chest and head are soft, so that when you rock your pelvis back and forth, it will likely make your head nod. The next time you come to a flat back, walk your feet in a little closer, push into the feet and lift the hips up into a bridge pose. Exhale and bring the hips back down. On an inhalation, lift the hips, lift both arms up and overhead alongside your ears. And then leave the arms here, but bring your hips back down. Inhale, lift the hips up into the bridge pose. And exhale, hips and arms come back down to the side. Turn your head to look to the right and stay here and breathe. Let's bring the head back up through to the center. Push into the feet, turn the pelvis under, lift the hips, sweep the arms up and overhead. Leave the arms here and bring your hips back down. Inhale, lift the hips. And exhale, hips and arms come down. Turn your head and look to the left. Relax the mouth and take 2 more breaths. Let's inhale the gaze back to the ceiling. Draw both knees in. Maybe take the knees out wide to bring a little more tug to your low back. Lift through the head as if to bring the forehead towards the knee or the head right between the legs. And then lower back down. Now either rock up to seated or roll to your side and we'll lift back to seated. Coming into our yin practice after this joint churning, let's bring the bottoms of the feet towards each other and bow forward into butterfly to start to traction. The gentle joint movement begins to kind of warm the tissue bodies, warm the tendon bodies where the muscle narrows to a tendon and crosses over a joint so that we get some lubrication going. And now we're going to come into the long holds. Here with primary emphasis to tractioning the tissues of the sacrum and up through the length of the spine. Some of you may feel this in inner groin or pressure to outer hips as well. In our yin practice today, we will visit the full circumference of where the femur bones meet into the hip socket. In this shape, we have both abducted, meaning taking the knees wide, and externally rotated, turn the femur bones out in the hip socket, working into the hip joint while we traction the layers of dense fibrous tissue in the sacrum and low back. In the minute that we have left, will you soften your arms and soften your shoulder blades? Let the spine round to your point of comfort, even allowing chin to come a bit closer towards the chest. Let your breath be your guide, adjusting out of the pose to modify if anything takes your breath away or causes you to hold your breath. Only hold postures where the breath can remain smooth. Let's deepen our breath. And once you exhale, we'll inhale and we'll rise up to seated. From seated, extend the left leg out long and bring right leg into half butterfly position. Know that if you need to pad, if it's tight underneath the knee, like you fold forward and the knee bends quite a bit, you can get a rolled towel or blanket underneath that knee. If this is really strong on your outer hip, you can pad that right leg with blanket or block or cushion. And then let's bow forward over this left leg. It's in the same family as the butterfly pose that we just took, and so we'll continue to build on the tractioning of the low spine. But you may find that you feel more tug isolated on one side of the sacrum, backside of the pelvis, or one side of the spine more than the other. Some of you will feel this more in the backside of your left leg. Some of you will feel it more into your low back. And some of you will feel it more up into the upper back and neck. In the physiology of a stretch, there's amazing things happening in the intelligence of your body. When we first put a stretch upon a muscle, it quickly fires a message to your spinal cord, and the spinal cord sends a message back that says, hold on. The stretch continues, and the muscle sends a message to the spine that says, we're being stretched. And the spine sends a message back that says, hold on. And this is happening super rapid fire, speed of light. The longer that we hold the posture, the slower the messaging becomes between the muscle fiber and the spinal cord. And when the messages get slower, the tissues start to relax. They don't have to hold to protect. The joints are not in danger. And so they begin to soften. And you may feel that softening as the duration continues. As trust is built in the tissues, the water is in movement, and it may guide you in little by little, not because of your will, not because you're grabbing on and pulling in, but because you're so, so soft. So before we release this pose, notice the back side of your hip socket where your femur bone is meeting into the part of the pelvis that you're sitting upon here, into the hip socket. You're sitting on the ischial tuberosities, and sitting in front of that is the hip socket, but you can feel that tug where the femur bone is sitting into the base of the pelvis or into the hip socket. We're going to work the opposite side now. Let's go ahead and inhale and rise up and descend all the way down onto your back. Once you come down onto your back, extend both legs out for a moment and notice. When connective tissue, when fascia in particular, and those dense layers around the sacrum get tractioned, they may temporarily give you a deep ache. If you experience the deep ache in your low back when you first release the posture, it's a message that lets us know that we've done some therapeutic work here. It's going to shift and lift, and it lets us know that we probably need a bit more of this. Until you start releasing these postures and it doesn't invoke a deep ache to the bone. That's when tissues are really rehabilitated. Will you bring your feet onto the floor with the knees bent? And if you have a block or a cushion nearby, will you lift your hips so that you can slide the block or a few pillows or a bolster underneath your pelvis so that your hips are now a good 3-4 inches higher than they would be if they were on the floor? Let's leave the right foot on the floor and extend the left leg out long until the heel comes to the ground, and then soften that left leg. Now, if you remember what was being tugged on the back side of your pelvis in that forward bend, those tissues are now compressed. They're moving towards each other. They're getting pushed together. It's like a super slow massage. And here on the front side of the pelvis, on this left side, the tissues a moment ago were compressed in the forward fold, and now we're giving them a traction, a tug. The fibers are sending that message to the spine that says, hold on. Actually, it sends a message to the spine that says we're being tugged, and then the spine responds back and says, hold on. And it goes back and forth, and you may find your body feels tight and tense. You may even unconsciously hold. But the longer you're here, the more you begin to soften. And the more we lay down that memory in the tissue that gives more space, more lubrication, makes it so that the movements we take off this mat are more easeful. The experience inside our body, lighter and more fluid. Now, in the final minute that we're here, some of you may like keeping your right foot on the floor with the knees bent as the knee bent as we've been doing. Or experiment with bringing your right thigh towards you and holding on maybe to the back side of the knee or onto the hard part of the knee. And notice where you feel it if you bring that knee up. It may increase the tug on the left side. If you lose the sensation on the left side, then bring the right leg back down. People have different experiences, and it can be different from one practice to the next. A secondary benefit of this pose is the compression that we're taking, the pushing upon the sacrum and the tissues of the backside of the pelvis. Will you slide your left foot onto the floor with the knee bent? And then lift up your hips. Remove the cushion or the pillows or the block that's underneath you and bring the pelvis down. Will you extend both legs out onto the floor and notice what you feel? Does that left bum cheek feel a little closer to the ground? Are you aware of tingles or pulsing or heat or coolness? Does this left side maybe feel a little closer to the ground or a little longer or taller than the right side of your body? Now we're going to come back up to seated to take these two postures to the other side. Riding back up to seated either by drawing your knees in and rocking or rolling to your side, or the muscular blood mover of the hinge where we sit on the backs of the hands, elbows off to the side. Reaching the legs up towards the ceiling to push through the heels, whether legs are straight or bent. Lifting through the head to engage the abdominal wall, and then lowering the legs down until the strength of your abs jackknife you back up. And I guess it's not just the abs, it's the hip flexors there. Let's take those two poses to the other side. If you'll bring left leg into half butterfly and extend right leg out long, knowing that you could pad underneath the knee. We'll soften through this right leg and begin to bow forward. Be curious about where you feel the sensation as you first come in, as it's an indication of where the tissues are the most stuck right now. Make no effort to bounce or to pull in or try to will and push yourself in more. Instead, go to where you stop and start getting more relaxed. Reading to you a passage from Dana Fald's Go In and In, she wrote, "When I can be the witness, all manners of miracles occur. Old wounds heal. The past reveals itself to be released. And present dramas play themselves out without sinking their emotional talons into my soft skin. The witness welcomes truth and dares to meet reality on its own terms. It is the ground in which the seeds of transformation take root and finally flower. When we, as the witness, are awake, the lake of the mind becomes more still. And in that mirrored surface, we see our own true face, a spirit smiling back. And let's deepen the breath here once more. And on your next inhalation, begin to initiate the movement back to seated. And come all the way down onto your back. onto your back. Take a moment to let the spine rest. Whether feet stay on the floor with knees bent or you extend the legs out long. Notice if this was an easy release or you feel a deep ache in the tissues or a deep ache in the bones. And know that if you are experiencing the ache, that it will very quickly begin to gently lift and pass, particularly if we weren't pushing ourselves. That's where the injury can occur, is if we're in the pose and we like pull in and hold hard. But if you soften your body and let your body unwind, it'll give an ache. The ache will pass and you'll feel lighter and more easeful as the tissues repair. Let's come to the front side of the pelvis. If you'll bring your feet onto the floor with the knees bent. Lift the hips up to slide your bolster or your block or your pillows underneath your pelvis. Be mindful that we get 3 to 4 inches of height. Leave the left foot on the floor and extend the right leg out long. Be mindful, particularly if you have a block, that the block is down under your wide swath of bone and tissue, your sacrum, and that no part of the block can be felt in the curve of your low back where the lumbar spine reside. Soften through this right leg, and let's wait and watch and witness. Nothing to do but to step back the internal stories, the busy mind, and soften. Let the intelligence of your body follow its rhythm with this time and this traction with each pose. As always, if anything makes you want to hold your breath, if anything feels sharp or painful, please adjust it. Come out of the pose and back in, or take a break for today and bring it in another day. We are training tissues, just like you train muscle when you walk or you run or you ride your bicycle or lift weights or take a more active yoga practice. We are training the tissues that hold you together. And it takes time to build into these 3 or 5 minute holds. And will you inhale a sense of ease and exhale that ease throughout your body mind? Inhale ease and exhale that ease throughout the body and mind. Let's replace this right foot onto the floor with the knee bent. I realize I didn't give the instruction to bring your left knee in towards your chest. I hope some of you who wanted to have that symmetry brought it in. Let's lift up through our hips and we'll remove the block, lowering everything back down, even extending the legs out long, giving a moment for that pressure on your sacrum to respond. Remember that when we work the ligament tissue, that's what's holding bone to bone. It is very fibrous, it is very dense, it's very, very slowly. So it takes some time for it to get there. It can take some time for it to release. Let's go ahead and either bring the feet onto the floor to rock the knees side to side and massage your sacrum and low back. Or if you prefer to bring your knees toward your belly and rock on your back in a ball, feel free. Let's either rock up to seated or roll to one side to lift, or take the hinge where you place your hands underneath your pelvis and then lift up through the legs. Lift the head to engage the abdominal wall if you're taking hinge, and jackknife back up through to seated.
Let's swing around to come onto our belly to take a passive back bend. This will work the front side of the pelvis again, but we're going to bring it into the inner groin shortly. So come down to the belly and create a little pillow for your head, either placing forehead on the backs of your hands or turning one cheek to the back of your hands. From here, will you slide your left knee up beside you? So it's called the half frog pose, where you bend through the left knee and slide the knee up next to you with your knee deeply bent. And this may bring your left hip up off the ground a little bit or a lot, depending on how your hip sockets meet your femur bone when you take this motion. Now you can stay lower down the whole time as we are here opening the front side of the right pelvis again, the hip flexor, and we're coming into the inner groin tissue on the left side. If you'd like to add a back bend component to it, hip flexors, bring your elbows underneath your shoulders. This may increase the tug in the inner leg, inner groin as well. So many joints at play here as we're compressing lower lumbar spine in service of the tissues that surround the spinal column, the ligaments here, and the disc that pads between each of the vertebral bones. We're coming into the inner left hip joint as a tug and the outer left hip joint as compression. We're coming across the front side of the hip flexors, psoas, iliacus, and more here on the right side. Now you can stay here for the next minute or so, or you can flex through your right foot and then bring your right heel towards your bum, and that will recruit into the quad tissues. A little more into hip flexors as well. Soften the right foot once you find its place to rest. And we'll be here just about a minute more. So this is a modification of a Yin Yoga pose called the cat pulling tail, the cat pulling its tail, the cat tail. I've heard it called many things. Now, the full pulling the cat's tail or the cat tail pose would be to take your right hand to hold your head and then take your left hand back to grab your left foot. And that creates a little twist to the spine that you're welcome to try, or keep the spine more neutral and give weight into both arms. And whatever you've chosen, let's take 3 more breaths. Notice how the breath fills the lungs, even the breath stretches the front body, the front torso. And then on an exhalation, will you bring your right foot down if you lifted it? Bring your torso and chest down if you lifted it. And slide your left leg back to join your right leg and rest on your belly again. Will you bend through your knees so both feet come up towards the ceiling, and windshield wipe the feet side to massage out the sacrum, just to turn the hip socket again. And then let's take this shape to the other side. If you'll bring both feet back to the ground, slide your right thigh up near your side body with a knee bend. It's half frog position. You can stay low as we come into that front left side of the hip and into the inner groin, the inner leg of the right side. Or you can come up onto your forearms to increase the pressure to the lower lumbar spine and increase the tug to the front left side of your hip flexors where pelvis meets leg. The deep foundational muscle of the psoas that goes all the way up to the inside of your 12th rib vertebrae here, the 12th vertebrae, giving it a tug as it will assist the health of your low back. Now you can stay with the left foot on the floor, or you can bend through the left knee, bringing its heel towards your bum, and then softening that left foot. Will you feel the next 3 breaths as slightly exaggerated breaths where you inhale and inhale till you feel quite full? It may bring a stretch across your front torso. And exhale as you soften arms, shoulder blades, the whole shape while you still hold it. On an exhalation, bring the left foot down. Bring the chest and head down. And slide right leg back to join the left and pause. There may be a little ache as tissues are released. That pose was putting some pressure on the SI joint. Some of you may feel that. Breathe into it. Any sensation you feel at the releases. And let the movements be slow massage. Let's bring the hands under the hips and shift back to child's pose. In child's pose, we come into traction, knees, ankles, low back. Let's go ahead and inhale up to hands and knees. Just in service of circulation, take a few cat-cows where tailbone comes up and gaze comes up. And exhale, round the back like a cat. Inhale, tailbone up and gaze up. And exhale, round the back. One more. Inhale, sway back. Exhale, cat's back. Come down to a flat back, and let's transition to our back. So from our backs here, take just a couple breaths, feeling the spine, the head, the sacrum. Now we'll come into a final twist. We'll just hold it about a minute on each side to respect our time. You can either give this focus to the sacrum and the SI joints by crossing the right leg over the left and then bringing both legs to the left. That's going to stay more isolated down into the sacrum, and it'll put a modest twist on your spine. Or we can work the channels along the spine, less so in the sacrum. If you bring both thighs toward your belly unstacked or uncrossed, and then take the legs to the left. You may like extending your right arm out from your shoulder to open up through the chest. If that's hard on neck and shoulder, you can either bring the hand below shoulder height or keep the elbow wide, but bring your hand in to rest on your body. Will you turn your head to look to the right and roll across the back of your scalp, your head to look to the left? Inhale when you roll the head to look to the right. And exhale when you roll the head to look to the left. One more time. Inhale and look to your right. Exhale, turn the head to look to the left. And then turn your head back to the right and hold it here gently for 3 more breaths. You may even enjoy opening and closing your mouth wide and then closed to bring it into the jaw. Will you hug into your low belly and draw the legs back up through the middle? Give the spine a moment in a neutral position, whether feet are on the floor or you extend the legs out like a brief Savasana.
Take the twist of your choice to the other side. If you want it to be more spinal column, bring both thighs toward your belly. Take the knees off to the right and extend left arm out from its shoulder. If you want it to be more sacral and SI joint, keep the right foot to the floor, cross left leg over, and then let both legs fall towards the right. Will you turn your head to look to the left? Soft mouth. Roll across the back of your head to look right. Roll across the back of the head to look left. Roll across the back of the head to look right. One more time. The next time your gaze comes to the left, keep it there. Maybe open and close the mouth 2 or 3 times. Remember the rise and fall of the depth of your breath. Let's inhale and bring the legs back through to the center. Unwind, unstack the legs. Will you lift your hips up into a bridge pose to neutralize sacrum? Bring the hips down. And if it feels well, bring thighs toward your belly. And lift the head as if to draw forehead towards the knees. Let's release everything out into Savasana. You can certainly have a folded blanket or pillow or bolster underneath your knees. Or you could have a folded blanket underneath your head. Consider taking the feet and legs a little wider. And consider taking elbows out wider or hands out away from your body. Unless it feels best to keep your hands on your body. Please allow yourself these 5 minutes to be still. As here is where, in the pause, the body and the brain, the neuroplasticity, can integrate all these movements that we've taken. It is when you are asleep and still that the body repairs. Shavasana is like a conscious sleep. Be still and let the body integrate and repair. Readapt and become more fluid.
Feel the breath. Relish the time to slow down the pace of life, to watch the rise and fall of moods. Feelings and sensations in the moment are so real, and then they shift like changing clouds and flow with the high tide out to sea again. Allow it all to be. No need to grasp or push away. Present with each moment. The whole of your body, mind, and soul opens to receive. To give like a little hormonal boost to your brain before we move from this practice into the rest of our day, will you deeply inhale with a smile on your lips and deeply exhale with a smile on your lips? Inhale a joy and exhale ease. And the subtle smile, inhale joy and exhale ease. Friends, begin to find some subtle stretches, movements, maybe at those little bones of toes and fingers again. Maybe into bigger bones of shoulders and hips and knees. Take your time as you begin to shift back through to a seated position. As we step out into the rest of this day, may there be joy and ease in our thoughts, joy and ease in our speech, joy and ease in our hearts, and joy and ease through these bodies. Namaste. Thank you so much for sharing the practice. I look forward to practicing with you again soon. I hope you have a lovely day.